Hi, my name is Talha Parkar, and in this video we will be looking at cell referencing in Excel and the three types: relative and absolute. So we'll first go through some basic documentation, and then we'll do some examples to understand how we can solve this and understand this in the best manner. So before we get started, what does a cell reference in Excel mean? According to the official Microsoft documentation, a cell reference refers to a cell or a range of cells on a worksheet. It can be used in a formula so that Excel can find the values or data that you want that formula to calculate. Now, it can vary the type of cell reference. So it can be one or more contiguous cells. It can be in different areas of the worksheets, or it can be different worksheets in the same workbook, right? So if you write, so if this is how it looks, for example, if you just write equal to C2, so this will fetch you the value in the cell C2. If you write A1 is to A1 through F4, this value in all the cells will be displayed, but you need to press Ctrl Shift Enter after you type your formula. And this is not available on web. Uh, if you do assets minus liabilities, you basically have a named range called assets and a named range called liability, and you're basically subtracting those two values. So you've either defined a range to a name to a cell by going to the name manager. I'll show you how that works in a second. Week 1 plus week 2 in curly brackets. Here essentially you're calculating the name, but it's an array formula, right? And the last one is a different sheet. So when you're on sheet 1 and you refer to a cell on sheet 2, which is B2 in this case, you will get that value, but this is how that reference looks like, right? To use them in the formula is fairly simple, right? You just press an equal to, select the range that you select, the cell, the range from the same worksheet or from the other worksheet that you want, and just go ahead and select that, right? I have some examples with me. We'll be doing those right now. So let's first understand what relative reference means, right? So if I was just to write an equal to D2, I would get 12 as the answer because the cell D2 contains the numeric value 12, the percentage 12, right? If I go ahead and I do an equal to and I select the range, it will give me three outputs. So do you see this light blue border across around the new range that I created? So this is basically an array. In earlier versions of Excel, you would have had to select or press Ctrl Shift Enter to get the output. So this is one way of doing a reference, and the other way is I can just press an equal to, and if I go to the first sheet, which is relative reference, and I just, it's blank, I know, but I just want you to focus on this part. So this is how the reference look like: name of the a single quote, name of the sheet, other single quote, an exclamation mark, and then the cell that you selected, right? So this is one type of reference, right? Now, to we've got some basic data over here, wherein we have three product categories. We have the sales, and there's a tax percentage that has been given to us, and we want to calculate that. One way is I can write an equal to, I can come here, I can multiply this number by 12%. I just want the amount of tax, and I press enter, and then I can either double click at the corner, select using my left mouse button and drag it down, or I can just select the range and press Ctrl D to copy down the formula. Now what is happening here is, see, I'll just show the formula as well to you so that you're able to understand better. When I drag down, my reference, which is C5, is moving to C6 here, over here in this cell, and in the seventh row it is moving to C7. So relative reference is basically you referencing a cell, a range of cells, a cell or a range from a different worksheet or an array. of cells, right? So that's what relative referencing is. It moves when you change the position. So if I was to copy this formula and paste it somewhere at the bottom, I'll get a zero because there's no value here. So what it is essentially doing, it takes up the position of that row. Will it work on columns? Yes. So if I just press a undo, I copy this and I move this to the right, it'll give me a value error for now because it can't multiply this by 12%. But you get the point. The column also has changed. So when you do a relative reference, what essentially happens is if you move down, copy down, the row will change. If you copy on the right, the column will change. So if I even was to add a row here, the cell will automatically detect the range. If I was to copy this down, so it would automatically detect the range. So relative reference is fairly simple. You just select the value of the sales, multiply that by 12%. Another way is I could reference this value that I have at the top, but then if I drag this down, you see I get an error, right? Because what Excel is essentially trying to find here is it is going to C5, multiplying that value with the value in D2. But when I move down, Excel is multiplying C6, the value in C6 by D3. So now, since this is a relative reference, the once I drag my formula down, it will move. So one way is I can manually write three formulas. One way is I can manually write three formulas so that I don't get this error. The other way is to use dollar signs, which we call absolute reference. So we look at some examples of those. Coming to the example, yeah. Same example. I'll just press an equal to. I'll select my sales amount, which is C in C5. I'll multiply this by the amount in by the percentage in D2. Now, I need to lock this cell because when I move down or I move towards the right, I don't want D2 to become D3, D4, D5 when I move down, or I don't want it to move become E3, E5, F5 when I move to the right. Let me show you what I'm talking about. When I drag this down, do you see that D2 becomes D3 and it becomes D4? When I drag this to the right and I press Ctrl R to copy the formula to the right, it becomes E2, then it becomes F2. I don't want that to happen. So what I will do is I'll press F2 to go activate the cell and go into the formula, and I'll just press F4. When I press F4 once, you can manually also add the dollar sign by pressing Shift and 4, the 4 key to activate to put the dollar. But there's a shortcut. You press F4. Now both my columns and rows are frozen. D is my column, and 2 is the row number. So when I press F4 once, both my column and row are freezed. When I press, so this is absolute reference. This is a mixed reference, wherein I am saying that only my row is freezed, my column is not freezed. So when I move down, my row will not change, neither will my column, because it's the same column. But when I move to the right, D will become E, F, G, and so on. Column D will become E, F, G, and so on. Then when I press F4 again, F4, or in some systems you might have to press function F4. When I press F4 the third time, what is happening? The column is frozen, not the row. And then when I press F4 a fourth time, it becomes a relative reference. So absolute, mixed, mixed, relative. So in this case, what do we want? We want an absolute reference. So I just press, I lock the dollar, and you see that C, column C, the position of the has moved. It has gone from C6 to C7, from C5 to C7, but the position of D has not moved. So we understood this, wherein we used the absolute reference on one of the range, one of the cell range, cell address. The other one we did not use it. It was relative. Coming to the second example, Also, I would just like to show one more example here. If I was to name this range as something, we saw on the Microsoft website assets minus liabilities, the example for assets minus liabilities, right? This is a named range. So let's say I want to change this, the name of this reference to tax rate, right? So I'll just select the cell, come to the name box. This is called the name box. This is the formula bar, and this is the name box. I'll just come here, type whatever I want to. No spaces are allowed, so I'll just remove the space and press enter. So now this cell D2 has been named as a tax rate. So if you pay attention here, when I am on D2, I don't see D2 here in the name box. I see tax rate. When I go to some other cell, I'm in D3 right now. I'll see D3. So another way of writing this formula was, I'll keep this intact. I'll just copy the header and write it again. So you do an equal to into the tax. So when I write tax rate, you see the tax rate has come here. And when I drag this down now you see I don't have to apply put a dollar. I do not have to put a dollar to lock that cell because now this named range tax rate is specifically that cell itself D2. So if you don't want to add dollars and you want to make your formulas more understandable for the people that you're sharing the files with, more user friendly, you can use named ranges. So when I use a named range, I don't have to put a dollar sign. When I have to put a dollar sign, it will look like this when I freeze the entire cell. Let's look at the second example, right? I'll not be solving this, I'll just run you through this example. It's fairly simple. I'm sure most of you are aware of the SUMIF formula. You are doing the sum basis multiple conditions, right? You have multiple criteria ranges. A single sum if is you have one criteria range, one criteria. Sum if S is you have multiple criterias. So here what is happening is I have my customers, I have months in which they've purchased something from me, and I have the total sales for that month. So for example, each of these individuals has made purchases in individual months only. None of them have made purchases in consecutive months or even scattered across the year. So Aaron Bergman has purchased in January, Mick Brown has purchased only in Feb, Vicky Freeman has purchased in March, right? Let me just make this Feb so that we have a different output here. Yeah. So I'll just make some minor change. Now we have sales for Aaron Bergman in February as well. Let me just break down this formula for you, right? So the first input is the cell range, right? Now the idea for you here is to write a formula that is dynamic so that you don't have to write a formula in each of the columns individually. You just write one formula, drag it to the right, and drag it to. Let me just write it itself. So you'll write equal to if sum ifs. My sum range is my sales column, which is my E column. So I'll lock E4 through E19. I'll press F4 once because I want to apply an absolute reference here. Then my criteria range 1. So my criteria range 1 is my customer name. I'll put a comma and I'll select my criteria, which is in this case Aaron. Now here I want to freeze C4 to C19, but here now in this case column G, where I'm giving my criteria. When I move down, when I drag the formula down, I won't have any. I'll show you. I won't have any issues. But when I drag it to the right, it'll move from G4 to H4. So in this case, what will I have to lock? I'll have to lock my row because I want my column to change, but I don't want my row to change for that specific cell. So I'll press F4 twice. Then you put in a criteria range 2. So in this case, my months. Again, I'll apply an absolute reference. Then I'll select my months here, which is my criteria range 2. Sorry, criteria range is this. I didn't put a comma. F4 comma. Select my months. Now here I want the row to be fixed, right? I want the just in this case, I want the row to be fixed and not the column. And here I want the column to be fixed, not the row, because all my names are in column G, right? I'll just press enter. You see, I get the answer. Let me just break down this formula for you. So when I drag this to the right, it's giving me a value error. Why is it giving me a value error? So when I drag to the bottom, it works. I'm not sure. Sum if E4 is to E19. I don't want that to change. Oh, C4. What's C4? Criteria range 1. I have to freeze this as well. My bad. I had not freezed it. Yeah. I did not freeze a range. So that's why I was getting an error. When I selected this range C4 through C19, so this is how it looked like. Select this range, it looks like this. Equal to, looks like this. But I had freezed C19, I had not freezed C4, hence the error. Now again, difficult to add so many dollar signs, you know. Best way, select this customer list, call it customer names, press enter. Oh, sorry, no spaces in the name range, so customer names, all months, again, no spaces, just all months. So I have two ranges now, and I'll call this sales managers, and this is my Q4, quarter 4. So I'll call this quarter 4. Now I'll write the same formula down here, and you just look at the difference and the level of ease that it becomes. So I have to do a sum if s. So my sum range is what? Oh, I'll define this also. Why do I need to total sales? So sum if s, my total sales. What's my sum range? My total sales, I press a comma. What's my criteria range 1? My customer names. What's my criteria? My sales managers in this case. Then what's my criteria range 2? All months. And what's my criteria for the months? Quarter 4. That's it. You put the formula once and you get the output. You don't have to put any dollar signs. Worked with name range becomes so much easier. Here the formula look like this. And just show you once how it looks like. Formula text, enter. Let me just drag it to the top, not to the right, so that it's clearly visible to all of you. Control shift down. Let me take that from here. See, it becomes so much easier. You have a named range, and it's easier for you people to understand as well. If you guys have some confusion between this customer name and sales, this was supposed to be different names, but I didn't change those, so ignore that. But rest, you understand how to work with name ranges. You can also go to in data. You can go to I I'm sorry, I forgot the option. Yeah, you can go to formulas and you can go to name manager at the top. You can go to formulas and you go to name manager. So it'll show you all the names that you've ranged in this Excel sheet, Excel workbook, right? Let's do the last example. Fairly simple. I have some product categories. I have a discount percentage on those product categories that I'm supposed to apply. So again, simple multiplication. My sales amount into my discount into FI E3. But now I have to lock something. So now my discount, which is in column E3, I want my row to be frozen. So I'll press dollar twice so that when I move to the right, my column moves, but my row does not change when I come down. Similarly here, I want the column D to be frozen because when I move to the right, I don't want my sales amount to move. So when I come to the right, you see I get the output, and when I double click here or drag down and press Ctrl D, you see I get the correct answer. If you have the latest version of Excel post 2021, there's something called as dynamic arrays where I can just select the entire range and multiply this with the entire range here, and I get the output. So if you have the latest version, you don't have to apply referencing, you don't have to apply dollar signs, but you need to be careful because if you apply a formula like this, because you see there's a slight highlight that comes around. So when I click outside, it's not there, but when I click inside, you see a blue border, a slight shadow that comes around. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it. So if you send it to someone who does not have the version of Excel that supports dynamic arrays, it'll just show an error. So you need to be careful. So this is one way. If I had to add dollar, I showed you how to add dollar. And again, here we could have done the same thing by adding a array name. So you call this sales amount, press enter. You call this discount percentage, and you can just multiply your sales amount by a discount percentage, and you press enter and you get your. Again, this is also dynamic arrays, but name ranges would work even if you don't have dynamic arrays in the latest version. So that's that with a from a practical hands-on perspective. If you want to read more, I'll also be making a documentation on this. I don't have one ready right now, but you can go to AbleBits. I'll can go to AbleBits, why use $sign in Excel, absolute and relative reference. They've explained everything in absolute detail with screenshots. So it'll be, if you want to understand this in more detail, you can go here. The only thing I've covered extra is named ranges and dynamic arrays, because that is also how Excel looks at the workbook, at the cell reference. Just one, yeah. So that's that. Thank you for watching. I'll be making more videos. Will stay more consistent. And if you have any specific questions, or if you guys are facing any specific problems in Excel that you want a solution to, you can always put it in the comment or reach out to my email or LinkedIn or Instagram, which is mentioned in the description. Thank you.